Welcome, everyone. I'm Mel Wolsey from TSG Branded Solutions. Thank you for joining us along with my lifetime friend, NHL Star Shayne Corson. Before I forget, a reminder that we'll have a Q&A. If you look to the right of your screen, you can post your questions over there. You can also upvote your favorite questions, and we will get to as many as we can. We're not certain who's all watching, so we are going to rate this as PG today. I know Bernie Owens would appreciate that. Excuse me, a word from our number one sponsor, TSG Branded Solutions. All TimberMart dealers want you to know that all the sales we have on will be on until the end of February. So don't need to panic over the next couple of days, but please get in and check everything out. But it will be posted on TimberNet as well. And any vendors that are out there that are interested in TSG Branded Solutions promotional items, we'd be happy to earn your business. Outside of that, let's get on with the show. I have the honor of hosting this event because, well, Shayne and I are more like brothers than we are friends. We grew up with each other since we were 5 years old, played minor hockey together, and Shayne moved on into bigger and better things. But fortunately for me, I was on Shayne's coattails all the way through. Shayne included me on everything from Canada Cup, the Olympics, training camp in Russia with the Montreal Canadiens. And there's many things that we can't even talk about. As you know, Shayne played Major Junior in Brantford, Ontario, which later on became the Hamilton Steelhawks. 1984, selected 8th overall, the Montreal Canadiens. 1987, played his first NHL season with the Montreal Canadiens. Total of 273 goals, 420 assists, 693 points, and 2,357 penalty minutes, which I saw a lot of those. There was 7,000 off the ice. Shayne played 1,296 regular season games between Montreal, Edmonton, St. Louis, Toronto, and Dallas. Named captain of the Montreal Canadiens, Edmonton Oilers, and St. Louis Blues. Representing Canada at 2 World Junior tournaments, winning gold and silver. Representing Canada at the 1991 Canada Cup, representing Canada at the 1998 Nagano Olympics, represented Canada at 2 World Championships, played on 3 NHL All-Star teams. And from there, I'm going to introduce our a very good man on and off the ice, my friend Shayne Corson. Shayne?
Hey, Mel, dog. How are you doing, buddy? Did my mom write that script for you, brother?
Yeah, I tapped into her a little bit.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for having me, Mel. Thank you so much for all the kind words. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have reached the goals that I wanted to reach in my life if it weren't for you, my best friend, somebody who I love like a brother, and you've always been there for me through the good times and the bad times. That's the type of person you are, and that's why I am where I am. To have people like you in my life is very, very special. And thank you to everybody for being here tonight. Hopefully we can have some good laughs and hear some good stories and just have some fun, because right now through these difficult times with COVID-19, it's been tough on everybody personally and work-wise. So let's just have some fun and enjoy this hour together.
Cheers, buddy. Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody showing up.
Cheers, everybody.
So, of course, we played hockey together all through the years, and, minor hockey, obviously, probably for most kids, some of the most memorable times they ever had, even for those who moved on to pro. And I know who your number one coach was, who was my number one coach, which is your dad. Your number two coach was probably my uncle, who never actually coached me. But can you tell everybody, like, what was your favorite tournament that we ever went to, or you went to, because you moved on a year up once we hit, I think it was minor Bantam. They took you from our winning team and moved you on there. So if you can give us a couple stories there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're right, Mel, dog. To be honest, my greatest memories are playing minor hockey with you and all our buddies back in Barrie, Ontario. I mean, I had the great memories from that. I mean, if it weren't for all you guys and all my teammates and my line mates, I would never have had the opportunity to reach my goal and dreams. And you guys played a big part in my career. And yes, my dad and WR, your uncle, were my two favorite coaches in minor hockey. They're both great people, and they played a big part in my career. So I owe a lot to both of them. Obviously, I lost my dad when he was 45, and that was a big loss for me. But I have to say, one of my greatest Barrie went to Carnival tournament, and your uncle WR was my coach at the time, and he was standing on the bench, walking down the bench, yelling at the referee, not paying attention where he was walking on the bench, and he fell off the bench. It was pretty funny. But, I mean,
I'm surprised he showed up.
To be honest, well, he missed a couple of games. My dad had to step in and coach for him. But anyways, that's besides the point. But I mean, I'll have to say probably the Quebec Major Pee Wee tournament when I was in minor hockey, when we went to Quebec and played in that Quebec Major Pee Wee tournament, was the first time any of us probably played in a professional rink at the Coliseum in Quebec. And for the rink to be completely full for a Major Pee Wee tournament was incredible. All the best teams from the U.S. and from Canada, across Canada, were there, and we made it to the finals. And before we left, everybody in Barrie, when we were getting on the bus, everybody was saying to us, you might as well just keep the bus running because you'll be back quick. But we ended up going to the finals and almost won the tournament. So, I mean, like you said, the greatest memories I have are from playing minor hockey with you and all my boys back. Brian Sear, Sean Dean, two of my wingers, my left winger and right winger were incredible. Stewie Garner, defenseman. I can go on and on, Stu Smith. We had so many great players on that team. I'm surprised that nobody else made it to the NHL, but they've all done great in life, and they were all great hockey players. It just goes to show that you need some luck, you need some good coaching, you need some good teammates. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed those moments. But the Quebec Major Pee Wee tournament, the Barrie Winter Carnival, the Burlington Golden Horseshoe tournament, the Hamilton tournament, and obviously winning the All-Ontario's a couple of times was pretty incredible for us too. And it was just awesome to share that with guys like you.
Oh, thanks, Corson. Thank God I had somebody back checking like you as well. So, yeah, minor Bantam, I think it was, they brought you up to, Major Bantam, they brought you up to minor midget, and then you end up going to play for the Barrie Colts Junior B instead of major midget. And then obviously you got drafted to the Brantford Alexanders, who later became Hamilton Steelhawks. But you're obviously first round, and you made the team right away. And you guys had a hell of a lineup, like one hell of a tough team. Oh my goodness. It's, nobody really wanted to deal with you guys.
No, Mel, I mean, to be honest, I left you guys. It was the hardest thing I had to do, but for my development as a player, they thought that I should move up and play with the older group. And I was a centerman in my whole life. And Mr. Pearsall, who another person played a big role. All my coaches played a role in my career. But Mr. Pearsall was a coach at the time, and he said, you're a defenseman. You're going to play defense. I wasn't going to argue with him. My dad said, go play where you're told to play and play as hard as you possibly can. And it actually helped me in my game, taught me how hard it was for defense to play the game and get chased around and get hit as much as they did. But so I went there, and then like you said, I moved on to play team for the Colts. And Mr. McCann was my coach there, and I had a really good season there, and I ended up getting hurt, broke my leg near the end of my season there. Actually, was lucky enough to get back and play a few games in the playoffs, and did end up getting drafted. But it was just another bump in the road. I had to deal with the injury, and knew I had to come back and play hard when I got healthy. But going to Brantford was a blessing in disguise. I mean, my parents met with Dave Draper, who was the GM and coach there in Brantford at the time, and they had met with him in Barrie, and he was just a great man, just a super honest man that gave me every opportunity to be successful. And that's important. You have to be put in positions to be successful. And he did that. And speaking of my teammates there in Brantford, and you saying that we had a tough team and a really good team, I was lucky enough to play with Bob Probert and Todd Francis. Great man, played in Detroit, was drafted in the third round, and just I didn't have anything to worry about on the ice. I could just go out and play my game with those two guys. Todd Francis was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens in the second round the year before I was. And they were two great hockey players. And not only that, they were tough as nails. And like I said, I could just go out and play my game. So Dave put me in a position, Dave Draper put me in a position to be successful. And you need that in anything in life. You have to be put in positions to be successful and to succeed. You can't be put in positions where your strengths are not going to be doing the things that you can do well, and then you fail. So, and I mean, failure is part of life too, though. Failure, you got to learn from your failures and mistakes, and it makes you a stronger, better person too. But to be successful, you need somebody in your corner and somebody to give you every opportunity to be successful. And Dave Draper did that, and he gave me two great line mates to play with, Todd Francis and Bobby Probert, who played in Detroit and had a long career. And God rest his soul, he's gone now, but they were two great people, and they played a big role in my success as a hockey player and helped me get drafted to Montreal Canadiens.
Never mind. It didn't matter who you wanted to face toe to toe. You had some good backup. That's similar to me through our youth, right? I ended
I
up
know, Mel. We're not going to talk. We're not going to talk about that, Mel. But I guess I'm going to drag you out a few scraps in the day to get you out of trouble. But you were there for me too, just as much. And to make a point to all the people there watching and involved tonight, thank you for coming. But actually, Mel Dog went to training camp. I think it was you and I think maybe Brad McLaughlin maybe went to a couple of training camps, junior training camps, but you're the only two other guys on our team. And we had a great team, Mel. You remember. They were amazing. Yeah. And I think Stuart Smith, forward, went to Cornell. But
Rego went somewhere too, I think, Sudbury or something.
Yeah, Mike Rego went to Sudbury. That's right.
Yeah.
So we had a few guys who went to training camps, but, unfortunately, nobody went on. Or maybe that was their decision not to go on to the next level of hockey. And, hockey's not for everybody, and hockey's just a small part of your life anyway. So all of our buddies have done really well and been very successful. That's all that matters. And they're happy. And that's all that matters in life.
Like I say to, the kids that I've been coaching and stuff like that, which I'm not doing more, but have, and said to them, you always say they're only playing A or AA, but I said, guess what? I said, after all these NHL guys are done their career, they're sitting on the same dressing room seat as you and I, and we're all sitting there telling stories as we are today, and which is the beauty of it. And everybody's just a person, and you work hard and you can end up in good places. So, of course, it was, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 86 in Hamilton. I was at the game with your mom and dad, and I think Shannon or Patty or both were there. Where you're in playoffs with Hamilton, and you were supposed to go to Montreal that year to join the Canadiens. And I recall I think you're at 96 points or something like that with Hamilton, and you wanted to break 100. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was something like that. And you got an injury. I think it was the first period. You went off the ice. Your mom and dad went down the change room, talked to the doctor, and the doctor said he's tore the ligaments in his ankles. What I think you're telling the doctor you're going back out. You're telling the trainers I'm going back out on the ice. And so your mom and dad came back to the seats. Said, well, what's going on? So he said he tore his ligaments in his ankle, but Shane says he's going back out. And the doctor said there's no way he's going out. He can go out, but he's going to come right back off. Well, you end up finishing the game. I think he even got another point. Unfortunately, you never end up going to play for the Canadiens in the playoffs, and obviously they won the cup that year. But you did go there and experience and see what it took to be in that position as far as in the playoffs and so on. So that helped you out later on in your career. But the next year you end up joining the Canadiens, and you played there the whole year. That was your NHL career moving forward. You played the full year. Was Bernsey the coach that year?
No, Jean Perron was my coach my rookie year. Jean Perron, and then after my rookie year, Jean Perron got fired and Pat Burns came in. Mentioning that story when I played junior, actually Andre Boudreau was the assistant GM at the time. 2 nights before that game, and it was actually in Hamilton playing against Guelph that I got hurt. Now you're right, I got hurt in the first period. Missed first period, and then I played the second, third period with my ankle taped up heavily. I actually ended up tearing the ligaments in my ankle and partially in my knee. But I played the next 2 periods. And you're right. I think I ended up with 98 or 99 points. Didn't quite get to 100. I think I had a couple in that game. But unfortunately, didn't get to the 100, which I wanted to. But and then I went on to met me and got a plane ticket. He would give me a plane ticket to come to Montreal after the season was over, which was 2 days later. And I got hurt. And like you mentioned, though, I got to go there and be a part of it and watch what it took to be successful in the NHL, to be around some of the greatest players that, played the game and some of the greatest people that I've ever met in hockey that played for the Montreal Canadiens at that time. And to be able to be there and watch it. And Dave Maley came in from college and played my spot, and I became great friends with Dave Maley, and couldn't have happened to a nicer guy to win the cup. So if I wasn't going to win it, I was happy that he won the cup and got a ring because he's just a super guy. But yeah, it was a good experience. And then the following year I went in and they had won the cup, and I knew I had to do something really well in training camp. And luckily for me, I had a really good camp and was put in a position to be successful. And things went really well for me during training camp, and ended up playing that full year with Montreal and just having a great time and got to meet some of the greatest people and some of the greatest hockey players, Guy Lafleur, Jean Beliveau, Yvon Cornwallier, Steve Shutt, Serge Savard was our GM at the time. Jacques Lemaire was around at that time before he went on to New Jersey. So to be able to be drafted by the Montreal Canadiens and go in there and be able to play for that team and that organization, the history of that team, lucky to be around people like that.
Pat Burns comes in, and I know you love Pat Burns like another father. You had a different respect for each other. I remember Burnsy, you having it out with Burnsy in your office. I don't know if it was part of the same thing. And then there was another time he told you to get off the bench and go take your equipment off because you're slamming the door or something through periods because you're ticked at your ice time. Can you tell us about a couple of those stories, Cors?
Oh, there's a lot of them, Mel, and you're right. We had a different type of we had a different type of relationship. It wasn't a friendship. It was more of a father-son relationship for sure. And I'll never forget about Pat Burns. I mean, he battled cancer 3 times, and God rest his soul, he's gone too. But my dad got sick and was dying of cancer, and Pat Burns wrote an unbelievable letter to my dad, and we still have that letter. My mom still has it, and that's just the type of guy he was. He was a hockey coach. He was hard on us, but he looked at us as people first, and that's what we are. We're just normal people that get to play a game we love to play, and he was our coach, but he treated us like normal human beings. So he was just an amazing person. But yeah, we had a lot of son relationship. You mentioned a couple of the stories. Well, the one story was, you were right. You actually are good with the detail. We're playing in Montreal, the old Forum, and that's when they had no glass behind the bench, and we had Jean Beliveau and our president, Ronald Corey, was there with his family, and Belleveau's family were all behind there, and a bunch of the other Hall of Fame hockey guys were behind the bench. And I was slamming the gate. I wasn't happy with a couple of the shifts that Riche and I were on the ice for. And at that time, Stefan Riche and I were, and set centerman was Thibodeau sometimes Scrutlin, but the better lines on our team at that time. So we were a little frustrated with the ice time. So I figured I'd show Pat by slamming the gate. So I did it once, and he came down and whispered on my ear, "Don't do that again." And I can't say because we're PG what he said to me after that. Of course, a couple shifts later, I felt the shift was like a little short, so I give the gate the slam. Pat comes flying down the bench, and I know that maybe I shouldn't say this either, but he comes down the back of me and grabs me by the jersey. And he just gives me a little tug, but I wasn't ready for it, so I fell right back on my back on the floor, on the ground, behind the bench, on my back, and I'm looking up, and all I can see is Ronald Corey, our president, looking over at me on the floor thinking, oh my God, I'm Beliveau. And I get up, and he goes, go to the room and get unchanged. Take your gear off. You're not playing another shift. So as I'm walking by, I'm like, I got my tail between my legs, and I'm like so embarrassed. I got to be as red as a tomato, probably as in my jersey because we were wearing red that night. And I'm walking by like Jean Beliveau and Yvon Cornwallier and the president of Ronald Corey and his family and everybody. And I go to the room, and I start taking my gear off, and I'm going, oh my God, what just happened? What have I done? I'm going to get traded, or I'm going to get sent down to the minors or something, because Pat's pretty strict. So I only take half my gear off. I go back into a hallway where there's like where we used to cut our sticks and curve our sticks, because it's not like now where they have their sticks come curved perfectly and they're like this light, whatever material you want to call. There's so many different materials now they're using, graphite and all kinds of stuff. We had wood sticks. So I go back there, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh my God, I could be done. Like, it's a different little thing. You could be in the minors, the shake of a stick, because we all made the same amount of money and they didn't care. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh no, I'm done. Well, doesn't Larry Robbins come walking down after the period's over to me and says, Shayne, give me a minute. He says, you were wrong, but give me a minute. For slamming the gate, he says, you're wrong. But he goes into, I see him because I can see from where I am, Pat's office door. He goes into Pat's room. He's in there for a couple minutes. He comes back and he goes, go back in the room, put all your gear on. That's the type of guy Larry Robinson is. He's one of our leaders. Larry and Bob Gainey, like, they're talking about being around guys that are leaders and unbelievable people. Larry Robinson, Bob Gainey. If it wasn't hockey, they would have been successful, whatever they do in life. So I go back in, I put all my gear back on, and here comes Pat into the room to give us our pep talk before the second period. He looks at me, he goes, all he says to me, he goes, looks at me, he's got his face is beat red still. He's still steaming up. I can see him deep. And he probably, the last thing he wanted to do is let me go out and play. But Larry went and talked to me. He goes, are you ready to play? And yep. I went out in the second and third period, and he played the daylights out of me. I played so much in the second, third period. It was incredible. But the story is that Larry was such a great teammate that he came in and he just saved me. And that's the type of people that I was playing with at that time. We all had each other's back. We played hard. on the ice. We were together off the ice, and we're just such a close group of guys. It was just amazing. Another time, the one you mentioned about the fight in his office is true. His office was right beside Jacques Laperriere, who was our assistant GM, and they always left the door open because they were always talking back and forth amongst each other and in and out anyways. And it was literally right beside each other. But he had called me to his office and was not too happy with the way I'd played a couple of games and started giving it to me. And, I mouthed back and said something back to him. And that was the type of relationship we had back then. I never had that kind of relationship with any other coach, but he jumps up and rips off his Calder Cup trophy ring because he had won a Calder Cup. He rips his ring off, says, "You want to go?" And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is my coach asking me to fight. And I'm thinking, I better not get up or do it. Flying in and grabs me and says, "You got to get out of here. Go back to the dressing room." So I'm back to the dressing room. And nothing else was ever brought up about it other than after if we had a few pops together when we weren't during the season, we laughed about it actually. But there are so many times with him. He kicked me off the bench one time in Hartford because I was sticking up for Russ Courtnall. Somebody tripped him, and I yelled at the referee, "That's a penalty." He said, "It's not a penalty." And I said, "It is a penalty," with different words. And he goes, "No, it's not a penalty." I said, "Yeah, it is." And he goes, "Get the bleep off the ice now." And I had to skate. And I was in Hartford, the old Civic Center, and you had to skate all the way across the ice. You just didn't leave your bench. Well, you had to skate across the ice. So I'm sure people were wondering why I was skating off the ice in the middle of the first period to go to the room. But yeah, we had a great relationship. And he was just an amazing, amazing person. Pat Burns was a great coach, but a better person. And you can ask anybody to play for him. They just loved him.
Well, you certainly got you got a lot from him, of course, because you're the same way. Great hockey player, but hell of a lot better person off the ice too. I'm going to ask you I got a question here from John Ballard. He is asking, who's your favorite team to play for, and why was it Montreal? Obviously, he's a Habs fan.
Should I sound like a politician here, Mel Dog, or not? Listen,
like you usually do.
Yeah, from my heart, and from to be honest, I learned something from every organization I played for. I learned something from every coach I played for. I love all the teammates that I ever played with because they all helped me have the career I had. It lasted 19 years in the NHL, so I owe a lot to my teammates and the organizations that I played for, and I owe a lot to my teammates and my friends and family for supporting me through those times. And I enjoyed playing the game of hockey, so I wouldn't care where I played, to be honest. Wherever I got drafted, I was looking forward to it, and I couldn't wait to get there and put on the skates and go out and try to help my teammates and my organization do well and play for the fans and give them an exciting time on the ice. But I mean, growing up in Barrie, I was a big Leaf fan. I was a big Darryl Sittler and Lanny McDonald fan, and Turnbull and Palmatier and all these guys. And to be honest, we hated the Montreal Canadiens back then, my dad and I and my mom. But once I was drafted by the Habs and got the opportunity to go play there in Montreal and listen to the fans there and play with the organization, the history, and be around all those guys, it was just an incredible place to play. And I have some of my greatest memories there in Montreal and had some of my greatest seasons in Montreal. So I love playing for all the organizations that I ever played for. Edmonton was a great place. I mean, you and I went out there and we loved Edmonton, Alberta. The people were super people and just incredible, down-to-earth people that loved the way I played. So I really enjoyed playing there too and didn't really want to leave Edmonton at the time. But Slats was a tough negotiator, and he had other things in mind. And I ended up going to St. Louis and playing in St. Louis for a year. And I was in Dallas for a short period. Dallas was a great hockey town, but they're more into basketball and football and baseball, and they have their college sports, which are huge too. And when you're in Canada, hockey's the number one sport. I mean, there's some great sports. Basketball is growing, soccer is growing because they're both doing such great things, and lacrosse has definitely came a long way in the last 25 years. But so in saying that, I have to say that I love my years in Montreal. It was a great place to play hockey, great fans, and they treated me well, and they gave me the opportunity to play in the league that I dreamed about playing in for years and years and years. So I owe a lot to the Montreal Canadiens for giving me my opportunity to play the game I love. And the Habs fans are incredible, and they were incredible to me. And saying that, I love playing everywhere, Mel. You know me, I would have played anywhere. I just love the game of hockey. And I was lucky enough to play a long time and play for some great organizations.
I just want to bring it up, of course, just because I know you always want to mention them, how a great impact also that Serge Savard played in your career.
Yeah, I mean, Serge was he was the guy that drafted me. Let's be honest. I mean, the scouts go out and do their job, and they can suggest who they want to pick. And I know there was a lot of scouts how it works. The scouts out west will be pushing a guy out west. The guys in Quebec will be pushing a Quebec guy, and then the Ontario guys will be pushing an Ontario guy. And it comes down to Serge to make the final decision. And he picked me, and I owe a lot to him. I mean, like I said, I had a dream of playing the NHL, and I was was at the junior level, and he gave me the next step by drafting me. But it was still a lot of hard work ahead of me, and I had to put that time in and get the opportunity to play. And he did that, and my coaches did that in Montreal, and he stood behind me through a lot of good and bad times too. I mean, we all make mistakes in life. I was a young guy when I went to Montreal, and we all make mistakes, and we have to learn from those mistakes. But Serge and Pat were the type of guys who would stand behind you and through those good times and bad times, and that's what was so important. That's why they're such incredible people. And the captain of the Montreal Canadiens and a great GM. So yeah, I owe a lot to Serge, and I always love to mention him. And Alain Vigneault was another guy. Was one of my coaches in Montreal. He played a big part, helped me get to the Olympics in '98. He believed in me when he traded for me from St. Louis and gave me the opportunity to play with Mark Recchi and Saku Koivu, and I ended up getting an opportunity to go. Dave King, assistant coach, and he was a big part of Team Canada for years. And I know for a fact that Dave pushed hard for me to be on that Olympic team. So I owe a lot to a lot of people throughout my career, Mel. I mean, so many people, I'll forget to mention all of them. I mean, anybody that ever touched me in my hockey career always helped me, and I have nothing but the respect for all my coaches, all my teammates, and all my supporters that helped me realize my dreams and goals of playing in the NHL.
Great answer, of course. Thank you. I'm just going to throw a couple comments and questions out here. People are asking. John Morrissey, he stands about 6'3". Of course, he thinks I'm only 5'5", but John, I'm 5'7", by the way. Do you think if Mel was taller than 5'5", he would have made the NHL? LOL. We would answer that one, Johnny.
You're 5'9", Mel, with your platform shoes on. You used to wear your platform shoes.
With my skates on.
Come in.
I had from Sheldon Penman, who is the toughest player you played against?
Oh my God, Sheldon. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, back in my day when I came to the league, there were so many tough guys, so many heavyweights that I didn't have to worry about because I had Chris Nunn and Kordic and Wade Belak and Todd Ewan, rest his soul, and Johnny Kordic on my team. Heavyweights. And there's different types of toughness. There's guys that are tough on the puck. There's guys that can play injured. Bobby Probert, who I play with and been brought up, he was one of the toughest guys ever to play the game. Dave Brown, Dave Semenko, who I met after hockey down at Wayne Gretzky's fantasy camp every year, was just a great human being. God rest his soul. But in saying all those guys that were tough guys that could fight and were the heavyweights of our league, probably the toughest guy, one of the toughest guys I ever played against was Cam Neely from the Boston Bruins. He was a right winger. I ended up being a left winger in Montreal most of my career. I played a little bit of center, but I played against Cam a lot. And playing in that little Boston Garden in Boston, you knew you're playing against a tough player. He could score goals. He was big and strong, 6'3", probably about 225, 230 back then was big. And he was mean and nasty, and he could score goals, but he played hard. And when you came out of a game, you knew you had been in a battle that game. And I mean, I remember icing my shoulders and my elbows and my hands after playing against Cam. I mean, he was one of my first fights as a rookie too. I fought him in Boston, and my head was shaved. And he got cut in the fight, but he was already cut the game before. But I made it look good. I rubbed his eyebrow a little bit and opened up the cut so it looked like I cut him. But I go to Boston, my daughter at Boston College, and they all ask me about it. And I have to be honest with the people down there. It wasn't me that cut him. He got hit with a puck a game before, and it just looked good for me. And another guy that I have a lot of respect for and was hard to play against was Owen Nolan. Owen Nolan was the captain in San Jose. And, I mean, he was just a great hockey player, played the game the right way. And he's a good person. I ended up playing with him in Toronto, but I had a good battle with him one night in Montreal at center ice. We were both wearing the C's. I was wearing the C for Montreal at the time, and he was wearing the C for San Jose. And he's one tough guy. And, I mean, he's tough mentally, and he's heavy, like on the puck. And he plays hard, and he plays the body, and he plays the game that, I think the game should be played. It's like a Tom Wilson nowadays. And that's why I picked Cam and him, because they could score, goals, they could fight, they could play any type of game, finesse game or a heavy body game. And that's why I picked those two guys. They were really, really, really tough to play against.
Thanks for that answer, of course. I'm going to go through a few of these here. You don't need to answer this one. Obviously, somebody here knows us from Barrie because they said, how was training at the Barrie Drive-In?
Well,
A few
it
good
helped.
stories there.
We won't say anything about that, but I mean, the Dust Till Dawn on Sunday nights was more than just a movie night.
I think you missed one or two teeth, aren't you, for one of those on hockey?
Yeah, well, fortunately for this thing tonight, I got them fixed. Just yesterday morning, I got one of them fixed for good. So, I mean, I loved growing up in Barrie, Mal. We had a lot of good times there. We have a lot of good friends still there in Barrie. It was a great town to grow up. It was great for families, a great hockey town for me, and I had a lot of support for the people in Barrie. And I just feel lucky that I came from there. And yeah, the Dust Till Dawn was a bit of a training site for me when I moved on to deal with some of these guys like Owen Nolan and Cam Neely. But yeah, there's some great memories from back then, and I wouldn't trade them in for the world.
Okay, from Ian Ellis, what would be your number one advice for parents wanting to help develop their son, daughter to be a better hockey player? Great question, by the way, Ian.
Great question, by the way. I mean, I'm lucky enough that I have one boy and 3 girls. And like I mentioned, my daughter Willow's the youngest. She's 22, so she's going to school at Boston College. And she got a scholarship down there to play hockey at Boston College. And then I have a son that played, minor hockey all the way up and ended up playing junior hockey and went to one training camp in Montreal for the Canadiens. But unfortunately, he didn't quite make it. But I mean, he went on to Western University and got a great degree at Western. And he's dealing with his own company. And that's why I have Good Sunday. He's got his own company and they're in California right now.
Great stuff.
Distributing everything in California. So to your question, which is an amazing question. I was just saying that because I have the experience of having both a boy and a girl playing hockey. And I think it's amazing. Girls hockey have come so far, and there's so much more opened up to the girls recently. And obviously they still got to go a lot farther to make it equal with the men and the boys. But honestly, my advice is, and this is the thing that I learned, I went through it with my son. I learned a lot from going it through with my son to when my daughter, my son's my second oldest. And now my daughter's 22. I learned a lot from dealing with my son, moving to my daughter at 22. And honestly, just have fun, enjoy the game. We talked about it earlier. My son, Mal did actually talk about single A, double A, triple A. In the end, hockey is a small part of your life, but it's a big part when you're a young kid because it's a big part of social life. It's where you meet your friends. It's where you create a lot of memories. And what I mean by having fun is creating all those memories, making new friendships, and you get the opportunity to travel around wherever, Ontario, or if you move up to a different league or higher league, you sometimes can even go internationally to different tournaments and hockey games. So I think it's have fun. And in life, you have to work hard. Obviously, you have to work hard at anything in life if you want to be successful. And meaning if that's hockey, if you want a police officer, a fireman, or a doctor, or whatever you want to be in life, you have to work hard at it. But the most important thing is if you're not enjoying it, don't do it. So to the parents, let them have fun. Let them be themselves. Let them, decide if they want to play, if they don't want to play, and don't push them too hard. They already have enough pressure on them, kids. And I know I pushed my son a little bit too hard, and that's what I meant by learning from him with my daughter. They already have enough pressure on them in life. They have school, they have social media, which is crazy. I think nowadays it's just too much. And then they have their social life, which is a lot of pressure too. And with the social media now, there's so much pressure on the kids from the outside, and the people that don't even know them, they can say and do what they want, and they don't have to put a face to it. So I just think there's enough on them. Just let them go out and have fun, enjoy themselves. And that's honestly the best advice I give to parents is let them enjoy it. If they're not enjoying it, then they're not going to be successful. And that's like anything in life.
Ian says, great answer. Thank you. Going to see here. Ryan Sims, lots of bad blood between you and Ty Domi before you became teammates on the Leafs. Does all that go out the door once you're in the same dressing room?
Well, you know what? We were actually kind of friends before that. We had met at a few events. The CCM tournament, Mel, I think you were there with me. Brad Jansen, we used to run the CCM tournament in Kitchener there. So I'm pretty sure you were down there with me because we were together all the time. And Ty was down there, and the Lindros boys were down there. And so we had a little wrestling match in the elevator. And as strong as I was not the biggest guy, but I was gangly and could handle myself. But we were kind of friends before that. But when you step on the ice, the friendships kind of go out the door, especially when you're intense and you want to win at all costs, like myself and a lot of the guys back in the 80s and early 90s were. But once you step off the ice, back being friends and doing your thing, you don't carry it off the ice. And it's the same as if you're traded to a team where you've battled the guy for years. You respect them. You respect that they battled you and fought you. And Ty Domi was always an honest and straight guy, and never was a dirty player with me, and always respected me as a player. And we were just trying to do what we needed to do for team to win hockey games, and I respected him for that. And I have a lot of respect for Ty Domi as a hockey player and as an enforcer. And yeah, once I went there, we everything else was thrown out the door, and we just wanted to win a championship in Toronto together. And Ty was always there for me, and always there for his teammates as one of the toughest guys to play the game in the NHL. So I have a lot of respect for him in that fact, and I still talk to Ty to this day.
One of my old sayings is many friends, none of which I play against. Right? You have 17 on the other side, so you step on the ice, none of them are friends.
Exactly.
So I agree. From Jason McKee, which teammate was most influential of your career?
Oh, wow. Was it Ian? Ian asked that question? Ian McKee?
Sorry, Jason. Jason McKee.
Jason McKee. Sorry, Ian was the one before.
Yes.
Jason, you know what? That's a really good question. It's a really difficult question. I mean, I owe so much to a lot of my teammates. They helped me from minor hockey on. Like I mentioned, Sean Dean and Brian Sear, who I play with in minor hockey. They were my wingers, my left winger and right winger for years and years and years, till I left and moved up with the older group. So they played a big part in my career. And all my other teammates in minor hockey, including Mal Dog, who was a goalie, he'd give me the odd pass behind the net, and I'd go end to end and score in minor hockey. I could do those things, but and then moving on to junior hockey. I got to play with Bob Probert and Todd Francis, who were a big part of my first year and getting drafted. I just had to worry about going out and playing hockey. They took care of everything else for me, so I owe a lot to them. And then the NHL, going to the NHL, just so many guys. It's so many to mention. I mentioned a couple of them: Larry Robinson and Bob Gainey and Guy Carbonell and Chris Nyland. They were huge leaders in our hockey team when I went to Montreal. And all the ex-players, they weren't even playing at the time, like Cornoyer and Beliveau and who was our GM. They taught us to respect the game, but respect the fans and appreciate the fans, and be humble and not be cocky because you're a hockey player. You're just a normal person playing a game you have to play, and treat the fans with respect and sign whatever they want, take pictures with them. I remember Kevin Guest played for the junior B team. He wasn't the best player on the team, but he gave me a stick, and I'll never forget him. Getty, he was my favorite player for years. But in saying that, all those guys played a part of it. Chris Chelios was a big part of my career when I first went to Montreal. He was one of my best friends, still one of my best friends to this day. We still talk a lot. He lives in Chicago now, so I don't get to see him as much as I want, but I still talk to him quite a bit. And then, Wayne Gretzky. I was lucky enough to play with Wayne Gretzky in the 91 Canada Cup. I was his left winger. I remember we had to go to training camp that year, and I didn't really want to go. I was so nervous, but my dad said, go for the experience. If you get cut, oh, well, you're going to learn a lot, which he was right. I could learn a lot from all those superstars were there. There were so many of them. But I went there and made the team. And from day one, I was on the line with Gretzky and Steve Larmer. And Steve Larmer, I got to tell you, is one of the most humble people I've ever met. He was my roommate. At the end of it, I was rooming with Adam Oates and a couple other guys, but they ended up getting cut. And I ended up rooming with Steve Larmer and playing with him and Gretz. But Gretz taught me so much. That camp, he said, I remember he sat me up with a wide open net and I missed it. And he just skated over to me and just said, quietly, don't worry about it. Don't be nervous. Just go out and play your game. Play the way you're capable of playing, and you're going to help this team and this line immensely. And that made me feel so good coming from Wayne Gretzky, who I thought was the greatest player and still think was the greatest player ever to play the game. Again, though, I met him off the ice, got to spend a month and a half with him and his wife. He treated my parents with so much respect. I just realized how he was such a great guy off the ice, and that's why he's so successful on the ice. And he taught me the same thing. You can have as much fun as you want off the ice. Just come to work every day and put a honest effort in every day. Put your hard helmet on and work hard, and you'll be successful. And just to treat people with respect and treat all your teammates equal, because every guy on that team is important to the team, whether they're playing 2 minutes or 20 minutes to win a championship. And that's why the Edmonton Oilers won so many championships, because they made the trainers and the video guys and the coaches and the players all feel just as important to the team as anybody else. So that's something I learned from Wayne Gretzky. So I carried that on with my career. And something he treated me, and he didn't have to treat me that way, or my parents. He took my parents out for dinner, him and his wife. And it just taught me something, to just be really kind and humble to people, and things will work out for you. And then I got the opportunity to play with him in St. Louis on a line with him and Brett Hull. So it was pretty amazing to play with one of the greatest players. I think the greatest player ever to play the game. I mean, Gordie Howe, Bobby Orr, two other great players, and Mario Lemieux, but I still think Gretzky is the best of all time. And I know him personally, and I know him as a person, and he's just the greatest person, and a great. And Mark Messier was another guy that showed me how to be a leader by example. He worked so hard, and he was one of the toughest guys I ever played against too. So those guys, I would say, played a big part of my career. But I honestly owe a lot to all my teammates throughout my hockey career. And if you don't have your teammates, you're not going to be successful or win anything individual or do well if you don't have teammates behind you on and off the ice.
Comment from Wayne Gretzky. I mentioned to you a while ago, of course, when down at one of his camps, he said to me, Shayne, and Wayne, he doesn't pull any jabs. He tells it the way it is. He said Shayne was, if not the best, very close to the best leader I've ever played with on a hockey team, which speaks. I don't even know how far you could go with that, as far as how great of a compliment that is. But that's Wayne's compliment. But I also received a number of compliments from other guys, the younger guys. Your brother-in-law, Darcy, you always took the young guys under your wing, and sometimes you stayed out a little too long, but but you always made sure they're taken care of. And say Wayne complimented, saying you're one of the best leaders that he's ever played with.
That touches me, and honestly makes me feel pretty emotional coming from somebody like that, because you know how much I look up to him, Mel, and how much he took me under his wing during the Canada Cup in '91, and we remained friends over the years. He invited me to his fantasy camp in Vegas, which I feel is an honor, because he only invites people that are good to the people that come down and do the event, but he only invites people that are close to him and people that he considers friends. And I still, to this day, stay in touch with him. He reached out to me at Christmas and on my birthday, and he just doesn't realize the effect that he had on me. And I try to tell him, but he's so humble. He just kind of shrugs it off or laughs it off. But that coming from him means the world to me, and I appreciate you mentioning it in front of all these people that are on this with us today. Thank you.
Oh, well deserved. But let's go back to so talk about Wayne and Canada Cup. Now, you didn't mention the Olympics. You guys played together again. I was lucky enough to be there at the Olympics with you, and as usual, we went to restaurants and bars and all that together. Obviously that was an experience that I don't know if you could ever touch on that experience with all the other hockey experiences you had, but for the most part, obviously it was disappointing that came home without the gold. We all know what happened with the bronze. So that's Canadian hockey and attitude, that if you were coming home with gold, don't go home with anything. But can you touch a little bit on the Olympics course?
Yeah, funny you said that it was disappointing, because it obviously was disappointing. But people ask me this question about what's my most, one of my best moments in my hockey career, and what's the most disappointing moment. And my answer is the Olympics. I'll be honest, I lost the Stanley Cup final in 1989, which was terrible, and they don't let me stop thinking about it, because they show Lanny McDonald on Sportsnet all the time, jumping up and down behind the net after he scored a goal, and it's in the Montreal Forum. But we'll go to that another question maybe, or another time. But the Olympics for me was unbelievable experience, Mel Dog. I mean, to get picked for that team, number one, was incredible. And I owe a lot to Lane Vigneault, like I said, and Dave King, who was our assistant coach at the time, and obviously my line mates Mark Recchi and Saku Koivu, and Rex wasn't picked at first, but Korea got hurt, so he ended up coming in Korea's spot. So it was amazing. He got to go. And obviously Saku went with Finland. He was an incredible hockey player, so they got to go. So, and Marty Brzezinski was on our team, went to the Czech team, which we won't say, but they ended up winning the Czechs. But Anyway, it was one of my greatest experiences. And why, Mel? Because you get to put that jersey on every time you represent your country. It's amazing. I mean, you go from having, a lot of fans when you're playing in Montreal or Toronto to having a whole country behind you. And it's just an unbelievable feeling. People are getting up early in the morning to watch your games, and they're supporting you, wearing the Team Canada, waving the flag. You don't have anybody yelling at you and cursing at you either, which is nice. They're all cheering for you. Your jersey back on. The experience itself is incredible. To go in there and put that jersey on and represent your country is incredible. But you know what the best part about it was? You got to learn something. I went there and learned that all these amateur athletes work their tails off for 4 years, night and day, all kinds of hours, and work on top of it. And here we are, pro athletes coming in. We're getting paid to play a game, and we're coming in as pro athletes. And you learn how hard these people work. So you feel how lucky. You learn how lucky you are as a pro athlete to make money and play the game you have to play. These people don't get paid. They do it for the love of their sport and the love of their country. And then they work on top of that. And the funny thing is their event could be over in a second. You could fall, you could trip, or you miss it by 0.1 to being in a medal. But that's not what they do it for. They do it for their country and for the love of the sport. And they just go there to compete. And when you think about it, after we lost, you think about a person that's gone over the Olympics and they're competing against the best athletes in the world, and they're there, period. But they're 20th, 25th, 30th. That's incredible. That's incredible. So what I'm saying is I learned that, you know what, we're lucky. We're professional athletes. We get to play a game. We love to play, and we get paid to do it. So feel lucky and humble and honored to be able to do that. And these people do what they do. So it was incredible. And they taught us that. And being around them was just taught you their work ethic and, how great they are as people, not as just athletes. And being in the Olympic Village to meet all the other athletes and all the other people from different countries and learning their cultures and stuff like that was so much fun too. And eating different types of food, because we were given the opportunity to either stay in a hotel off the site where all the other Olympic Village, it's called. We decided to stay with all the other athletes. We wanted to experience the whole thing. And you go to the cafeteria, you could eat any type of food you want. So there were so many great experiences. The opening ceremony, the closing ceremonies were just incredible. And just the atmosphere and the excitement and the passion that you've seen at the Olympics was just so much fun to be around. And then being the worst part of it was we lost, like you said, and Wayne Gretzky didn't do the shootout, which I'll never know why, but that's somebody else, and I don't want to get into names. And that was the toughest thing we've ever did. I remember sitting there on the bench with Gretz when they were calling names to go in the shootout, and I just couldn't believe he never got picked. And then we ended up sitting there when we lost. They scored only one goal in Patrick. It was Robert Reichel, who I played in Toronto, used a stupid half slap shot, and it went in, luckily for him. And he used it in Toronto many times, and it never worked. I told him to put it away. It worked in the Olympics once, and that's it. But I mean, it was the worst experience, but it was the best experience I've ever had in the game of hockey. And to see that kid skate out in Ottawa with my name, that's how they did. They had the kid skate out with your name and number on your jersey when they picked you for the Olympics. It was just unbelievable, the whole thing. And you know what? I learned something too. You got to learn. You got to lose with class. And some nights you're not going to have it, and we didn't have it that night. And the Czechs were on to win the tournament, and good for them. They deserved it that year, and just got to move on and get stronger from it, learn from it. And I remember I have a lot of great memories from that tournament. But I remember sitting there with Gratz, and I'll never forget it. We were the last two guys to leave, and that guy loved to win, and he wanted to be in the shootout, and he would have found a way to score for us. I know it. He's just that type of person, that type of hockey player. He's just a different. There's only a few of them that come around.
So after the game, I think I've told you a story. Of course, it's fortunate enough that I was sitting beside Wayne, and you recall you could hear a pin drop in the room, like nobody was talking in the family room. Sorry, not the dressing room, the family room where everybody met afterwards. After you guys came back, could hear a pin drop, and Wayne looked up at me, and goes, "Why are you so sad, Mel?" He says, "We're all healthy." But here's a guy that just, and that for me, that was a statement that I remember for life. I'll never forget that. Here, he's the one that should be all upset, and that was his perspective.
You know what, Mel? You're right. That's one thing about Gretz. He always had positive thoughts in his mind. That's why he was such a great player. Like, he'd put the negative things away right away. He'd check them right away. He was that type of person. And that's why he was so great. The rest of us couldn't check a bad shift or bad this or bad that. But that's something I learned too as you get older, that health and happiness is way more important than a hockey game. And I went through that with my own stuff, with my mental health stuff. But you're right. I remember him saying that. Like, it's a hockey game. Why are you so sad? Move on. You're healthy. And health is the most important thing. If you have your health, that's the most important thing in life.
And obviously, his dad, Walter, had a big influence on Wayne. And I know you had a good relationship with Walter as well. But I want to touch base back a little bit on the relationship you had with your dad, who was a great man. He was like a father to me. Yeah. You dealt with it you had a hard time after his passing in Edmonton. Yep. And, it took you a while to get over it. You didn't even really and I'd say you got over it today, but how to deal with it. I was around you as much as I was. And because you're the tough guy, we all looked up to you, and you basically put on, I'd say that it was a front that I never noticed. Right. Yeah, we all go through times of this and that, but you had some challenges, and you're a big advocate of mental health, and I look up to you more for that than I did as you was an NHL hockey player. Maybe you could touch base on that a little bit for us, of course.
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate that, Mel. And you're right, Mel. There's mental health is an invisible illness, right? Hard to detect a lot of times because some of the people and a lot of the people that suffer with mental illness hide it very well. And I did that. Listen, you were my best friend. You were like my brother. We did everything together. We went everywhere together, and you didn't even really tell. Like you said, everybody has ups and downs, and you have some days and weeks that you're a little bit more emotional, or you're not as happy as you normally are, but you find a way to get through it. And that's just life. And that's something I've learned through all this, is that you're going to be up and down. You just got to learn how to deal with the downs and the ups, and you can't get too high and can't get too low if you can possibly do that. And if you do, you got to find tools to deal with it. But definitely, Mel, I mean, as well as I do, is that my dad was, one of my best friends, and obviously my best friend, and was the guy I looked up to. He's the guy that I went to when I had issues. He was the guy that I went to for my financial help, and just anything I needed. I knew he was always going to be there for me through the good or the bad times. And when I lost him, it was tough, but I hit it. I just went on. I knew I had two sisters and my mom to take care of, and I just went on with my life and tried to do everything normal and play hockey and go on with normal day life, and never dealt with it properly. And I mean, it was tough from day one. And it got worse as time went on when I didn't, come out with it. And I did a thing for a lady and a young boy. They started a company called Wear It. It means wear your stripes. And I hid my stripes for years, meaning I hid my anxiety, my panic, and my depression, and my sadness of losing my dad. And I never really dealt with it. We still haven't buried my dad yet. He sits on a mantle in my mom's bedroom to this day. But learning tools, I go to a spot and I just talk to him or just think of him. And I have this one spot that I always go to, and that's where I go to. And once I bury him, then I'll be able to go to his gravesite and talk to him and ask him questions. And I know he'll answer me in some shape or form. But as time went on, it just got worse and worse, Mel. I mean, everybody in life has anxiety and panic and get nervous and have their times where they're going through difficult times and their pressures. Everybody does. And I just needed to find a way to deal with them properly, and never did. And when you don't show your stripes, as this lady's company says you need to do, you just hide them. It just boils up and gets worse and worse and snowballs. And that's what happened to me. And I got to a point in my life where I was trying to decide whether I was going to stay in Montreal or come to Toronto. I had family and friends in Montreal and loved Montreal, but I had family and friends in Toronto here playing for the Leafs. And, everybody was getting pressure from everybody, and it just snowballed. And there was just normal family and day-to-day life pressure, and then the pressure of my dad and never dealing with it right, that it just snowballed. And I got to the point here in Toronto when I finally made the decision to come here, that I talked about and thought about. I didn't talk about it, but I thought about it in my mind about suicide. And that was a scary thought. And, fortunately for me, it was something in my head would snap and say, you can't do that. And unfortunately for other people, that's not what happens. And, I have many friends that I played hockey with that chose that route. And I feel very sad for them. Unfortunate that we couldn't get the help that they needed to help them get better. But I was lucky enough that I realized playing here in Toronto that my health was more important than the game that I love to play. And I left in the middle of the playoffs, which, Mel, as I do. Playoffs for me were the most important time of the year. I love playing the playoffs, and I love the game of hockey, and I love my teammates and the fans. I love the fans. But I knew at that point that if I didn't leave the Leafs in the playoffs and get the help I needed to get help, I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you and all the people that are on this call. And I'm open and honest about it, and I talk about it, and I'm not shy about it or embarrassed about it. It's okay not to be okay. And if I can help one person not suffer the way I did and get to the point where they're thinking of committing suicide, then it's well worth me telling my story and talking about it.
Thanks, Corson. I greatly appreciate you talking about that and doing what you're doing. I know a number of stories that you have actually stepped out and actually gave people your phone number to actually talk to them about it. So, you know what, kudos to you, pal. You're a superstar off the ice. We're winding down here, but I've got 3 questions here. We're going to answer real quick.
Sure.
Nowadays, hockey, a 12-month sport. Do you think it's important to play different sports during the summertime?
100%. I mean, I find it a little too much to play one sport year round. I mean, I love playing hockey, and I went to some hockey schools in the summer later on, but not that much. I mean, I played lacrosse, I played baseball, I played soccer, football. I mean, I tried to play all the sports. My 2 favorite sports back in the day were hockey and lacrosse. I played a lot of lacrosse, but I think it's so important, not just physically, but mentally. I think you need a rest from the game. And I believe you take the summers off and play another sport. Even if hockey is your favorite sport, I think you need time off from it. I think your body needs it. Your mind needs it. And then you come back hungry in the fall. I think you come back hungry in September to play the game you love to play. And not only that, you make other friends, different friends from different sports, which I think is very important. You learn different skill sets from different sports, and you create new memories from different sports too. And you get to travel to different areas and spots than when you play different sports. So I think it's very important, not only for the physical side of it and the mental side of it, but I just think it's good for your skill set. You can learn a lot. Like I learned playing lacrosse how to be, a little bit tougher. Playing lacrosse was a tough sport, and it helped me with my hand-eye coordination with the lacrosse ball and lacrosse stick. So it helped me in a lot of ways in my game of hockey, but it gave me a break from the game, and I think that's very important physically and mentally. But I'm definitely a big fan of playing other sports, and I don't think hockey's a 12-month thing that you should be doing, myself personally. And I know it's hard. You got to keep up with the Joneses. Everybody's doing it now, and you think you need to do it and train 12 months a year and be on the ice all the time and doing the weightlifting and all that stuff. But I'm not a big believer in that. I think it doesn't hurt to take a few months off. Myself personally, I just think it's good all around for many reasons.
Thanks, Shane. From Aaron Gilmore, seriously, Shane, Leafs or Habs? Who do you cheer for now?
I mean, I'd like to see both organizations do well. Living here in Toronto, everybody that I ever played with in Montreal, anybody that was ever in the organization, I think almost all gone. Maybe a few people up in the office are still working, secretaries and stuff like that, which I think there is. And I think Reggie Houle is still with the alumni. But I mean, I'd love to see Toronto bring a Stanley Cup back to Toronto. It's been a long time. They got a nice team. They got some work to do, but I think they got a pretty good team there. They need to learn how to win in the playoffs, and hopefully they continue to learn from their mistakes in the playoffs and their losses, as Tampa did in the past and other teams have done in the past. But I'd like to see both teams do well. Like I said, I was lucky enough to play for 2 of the best sports organizations, never mind hockey organizations in the world. Montreal and Toronto are well known all over the world. And they both gave me a great opportunity. Toronto was my team growing up. I was always dreaming about playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I got the opportunity to do that. The Montreal Canadiens, I wasn't a big fan as a kid, but when I got there, I became a huge fan of the organization and the city of Montreal and the fans there. And they gave me the opportunity to realize my dream. So I owe a lot to both organizations. I just want to see them both be successful and do well. But I'd definitely like to see, Toronto bring a Stanley Cup home to Toronto because the fans deserve it and the organization deserves it.
Thanks, Corson. I'm going to ask one more question here. I'm probably past our time, but anyways, good questions. Did you enjoy playing with the original 6 teams, or was the lessened pressure of teams like Edmonton, St. Louis more enjoyable?
No, I mean, I love playing in Canada. Obviously, like I mentioned before, we're playing in Montreal, Toronto, even Edmonton. Edmonton loves their hockey team and their football team. They're a big sports town. So there was pressure on that team when I went there too, because they had just the years before, they had been a dynasty. They won all kinds of Stanley Cups. But I wouldn't want to play in any different city. I want a city that cares about their team, cares about the game of hockey, and wants a winning team. And as a hockey player and as an athlete and as a person, I want to be successful, and I want to be on a team that wins. I mean, winning isn't everything. I don't want to teach young kids that winning is everything. It's about going there and being a good teammate and a good person, and working as hard as you possibly can, and having the goal to win. But if you don't win, you have to be a good loser too. And that's what I mentioned about what we learned when we lost in the Olympics is you have to lose with class too, and lose and learn from the losing, and hopefully you can win the next one. But I really liked playing in Montreal and Toronto and Edmonton. I love playing in St. Louis and Dallas too. Like Dallas we were on the back page. One little article when I played there was more college football and basketball and baseball, pro baseball and basketball and football that were on the front pages of sports in Dallas. And same with St. Louis. They had college sports, and they had their baseball team there and their football team there. So there was more about that, but still a great place to play. But no, I love the pressure we put. And I think what people don't understand, I never buy why players don't want to come to Montreal, Toronto to play. It's two of the greatest players, and Edmonton. They're the three of the greatest places to play hockey. You know, the people are passionate. They love the game, and they have every right. They pay our salaries. They have every right to boo us or get mad at us for not being working hard or being successful. But I have to be honest. In all those cities that I played in, if you went out every night and played your heart out and played as hard as you possibly could, and you still lost, they were there every night. They still showed up every night and cheered you on because they respected the hard work and you giving an honest effort. It's when you don't go out there and you see guys are taking shortcuts or not working as hard as they possibly can, and they're losing then. I think that's when the fans get upset. So I don't understand the pressure side of it. I would not want to play anywhere else but in Canada or one of those three cities that really care about their hockey. Now, and saying that, I know that people love their hockey in the States too. Boston, I go to Boston, they love their hockey. There's pressure on the Boston Bruins to win. They've won a lot. Chicago Blackhawks, Philadelphia, New York Rangers. There's pressure in life everywhere. I just think that it's magnifying here in Toronto because hockey is the #1 sport, and there is a lot of media that cover the hockey because there's only so much media that go around the States because there's so many other big sports, and college is one of the big ones down there. So I wouldn't want to play anywhere else other than where they love their hockey and they're passionate about their hockey.
Thanks, Corson. So before we're going to close things off here, before Shayne is done, a few notes, and Shayne, let me know if anything's incorrect. If anyone would like information on Shayne making an appearance for an event, which we can hopefully start again here now, or virtually, you can contact me direct, Mel at tsgbrandedsolutions.com. Or you can go to Shayne's website, which is ShayneCorson27.com. And you can ask to book something for that.
No?
Yep.
.ca, that one.
I thought it was .com.
No, I think it might be.
If it doesn't work, go .ca.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you, Mel, is I'd rather just tell them to go through you. It's easier.
Okay. And then also your Instagram, Shayne Corson27. And Shayne also is on Cameo. And remember, go to your local liquor store and grab some good sundaes and support Dylan. Reminder, all sales for the Timber Mart Group, they're going to continue at the end of the month, and any vendors out there that want to give TSG Branded Solutions a chance, we appreciate it. Definitely want to say thank you to the IQ Group, John Irwin, Bernie Owens, for setting this up for us, Kirk Nolan as well, and Kurt. We greatly appreciate you guys giving your time and letting Shayne tell his stories off and on the ice. And obviously, we all should be taking a closer look and paying attention more to mental health, which if I knew back then what I know now, probably would have been a different situation for my good friend Shayne. And obviously, we're all very fortunate that he was able to get some help and get things sorted out. And be quite honest with you, I may have been in the same situation if I didn't have as good a friend as Shayne to be there whenever I needed something. So thank you again, Shayne, very much. I love you, brother, and look forward to having many pops and some good Sundays with you.
Mel, first of all, I want to say thank you to you. You're my brother. I love you. Thanks for having me today. And some great questions from all the people. I want to thank all the people that came on today and joined us for this talk. And I really enjoyed it. to be honest, Mel, doing these things and being able to talk about what I went through, it's like therapy for me too, my friend. And like I said, it's all about helping somebody, and helping one person is worth it. And being able to tell about my hockey life and my hockey story is kind of cool too. I love thinking about all the memories and being back in minor hockey, playing with you and Brian Sear and Sean Dean and all the boys back there. And it just brings back great memories and puts a smile on my face. But the most important thing is, you said the mental health, and health is the most important thing in life for everybody. And don't be afraid, don't be shy, don't be embarrassed. And because it is an illness, and that's all it is. And you can get better and you can get through it. I want to thank Tanya from IQ. She's been amazing the last couple of days trying to set us up on this program. We had a bit of a hassle yesterday. I'm not too techie, as you know, Mel, but she did a great job. Andrew yesterday, Sandra today. I want to thank both you two for everything. And I want to thank all the sponsors that jumped on today and are part of this event. And most importantly, I want to thank Timber Mart for setting this up and putting this on today. I just want to say thank you to everybody. And I love doing these things, especially during COVID. It's hard to get out to see people, and not a lot of interaction with people. So when you're going through different things like I've gone through, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, these things are really nice, and it's a nice break. So thank you to everybody that was a part of it, and appreciate it. And hopefully we can do another one soon. And Mel, give them anybody that wants to do something, if they want to do something, get a hold of Mel. It's the easiest way to do it. I trust Mel, and we can set something up. And if I can do something for somebody and help put a smile on people's faces, that's the most important thing. And don't forget Shayne Corson 27 on Instagram. I'm trying to build my following.
I don't even know how to use that yet.
It's not the greatest either, buddy, but I'm getting better.
Reminder, the lounge is open till 9 p.m. I'm going to be over there buzzing around and like to talk to anybody that's out there and see their face. Again, thank you, Shayne. Thank you, everybody out there. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. And look forward to seeing everybody in person in not too distant future. And maybe we get Shayne to one of the live shows one of these days. That'd be great. Then we can talk outside of PG.
That's right.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks, Course. Love you, brother.
Love you, buddy.